Focus is not my friend. So when I learned about the Writerdeck concept, setting up a dedicated device just for distraction-free writing, I immediately set one up. And I've gotta say, I kinda love it. This is my System 76 Galago Pro, which I bought in 2020 with my own money. I've used this laptop constantly for the last 6 years, on projects ranging from server room mishaps to building APIs for legacy systems, and it's been my trusty sidekick, even though it's a bit long in the tooth now. A few months back, I switched my daily Linux laptop over to an M1 MacBook Air running Asahi, which means this laptop has just been collecting dust on my shelf. But I still adore it. The keyboard has excellent travel, and the matte screen is great in a variety of lighting conditions. Plus, since it's a System 76 laptop, it's already running Core Boot and has excellent Linux driver support compared with other laptops. So I figured this was a perfect candidate for a Writerdeck. Now, if you want a turnkey OS to install on your old laptop, there's a Writerdeck OS project, and I'll leave a link in the description. But they use the tilde editor, and I'm a Vim user. And since Vim broke my brain, I'm going to set up a Debian tty from scratch and install the parts I want manually. No pesky opinionated desktop to get in my way, no browsers pulling my focus away from the work. Just me and the words. So for this actual factual Writerdeck, I used a blank NVMe drive. But today I'm going to recreate the setup on a fresh Debian Trixie VM for screenshot purposes. I'm also going to do a full write-up, complete with all of the commands I'm entering, over on my website, veronicaexplains.net. Installing Debian is pretty straightforward. And of course, you could do this with virtually any distro that offers a console-only install option, including Arch, Alpine, Rocky Almadora, Ubuntu, or OpenSUSE. Gentoo too, although if you're a Gentoo user, you're probably already familiar enough with the console, and you don't need me to explain any of this to you. What I love about Debian for this sort of project is that it's only going to get a distro upgrade every 2 years, which for a Writerdeck is probably perfect. When the installer wraps up, I'm left with a very bare-bones Debian installation. And from here, I'd like to add a few quality-of-life improvements. First is Network Manager, which is going to replace the default Debian server-friendly networking stack and give me the nmtui application. nmtui is a simple curses-based tool to modify Network Manager and allow me to connect to a hotspot easily if needed. And while it's certainly possible to set up a Writerdeck without any networking at all, I find it tedious to copy files to and from various devices. For me, that's a distraction from writing, and I'm trying to eliminate those distractions everywhere I can. Next, it's time to install Vim, or in my case, neovim, as I've never really spent much time in neovim, and I'm seeing if I like it better than traditional Vim. We'll configure this a bit more for my Writerdeck later, but I'm going to need Vim here in order to survive configuring this mess. If you're a Nano user, you can certainly use that. And if you're an Emacs user, you're probably already commenting about org mode versus vimwiki. Next thing I need to solve is this terminal font size. Now, depending on your display, you might be totally content with how things look. But I'm not. I can barely read this text, and even if I switch to the VGA typeface with dpkg reconfigure console setup, it's still not scalable. Luckily, there's an awesome project called kmscon, which provides an alternative virtual console, critically supporting font scaling, alternate typefaces, and more than 16 colors. Debian Trixie doesn't package kmscon by default, but luckily it's easily available in backports, and now I can scale up the text and get some rudimentary mouse cursor action. And while Comic Sans is certainly an option, I'm sticking with my classic iosevka, which is what I've been enjoying in the terminal for years now. All of this is easily customizable in the /etsy/kmscon/kmscon.conf file. In my case, I simply copied the fonts I wanted over to the Writerdeck, then I moved them into the /user/local/share/fonts directory and set the font in the conf file. A quick reboot, and now I'm using a custom font in a virtual terminal. Pretty neat. kmscon is really the secret sauce that makes this whole thing work. I think without font scaling and customization, this would really be hard to use. But with kmscon, this feels just flexible enough to make it functional without a window manager providing me endless distraction. And I could stop here, because honestly, I've got the bare essentials for a sweet Writerdeck setup. It's a terminal. It has Vim. I can connect to a network easily. But I want a few more quality of life improvements to really set myself up for success here. One program I can't live without is tmux. Tmux is a terminal multiplexer, which essentially allows me to tile a terminal screen. Perfect for a TTY-based workflow where I might want to read a man page while I'm writing. I use tmux all the time on servers, so I've already got pretty good muscle memory for it, and it's pretty easily customized and packaged for just about every distro on the planet. I customized my tmux conf file to set the status position at the top and give it a green background. I also wanted to bind my F8 and F9 keys to system brightness, which is easily controlled via the light program. Lastly, I replaced the time in the right side of the status bar with a battery readout from ACPI. Now I can launch tmux and get a nice enough status line and some basic tiling, perfect for writing and reading at the same time. Next, I have to customize the color scheme for neovim, a little bit. Now, I could add a totally custom color scheme and change every little detail to my liking, but that's a bit of a distraction, so I'm just choosing from one of the schemes included with neovim. I kinda liked Elf Lord, and Peach Puff has some fun charm if I wanted a bright mode thing. But I'm feeling particularly inspired by a vintage vibe, so I chose Blue, which looks a smidge like editing back on MS-DOS, or maybe even a C64. Perfect for distraction-free writing. Then I got vimwiki set up, which is an awesome Vim-based personal wiki, and I use this all the time for writing videos and blog posts. I already made a video about setting up vimwiki, and I also wrote up a blog post about it, so you don't have to yell at me about making you watch a second video. I'm not a monster. Setting up vimwiki is a piece of cake on Debian Trixie, since it's included in the vim-vimwiki package. Vimwiki is basically just a bunch of text files which can link together using Markdown, perfect for the kind of seamless operation I'm going for here on my Writerdeck. Now, if my writing only had to live on the Writerdeck, I'd be happy as a clam. But I also need these files to sync to my desktop, since that's where I edit these videos. You could use rsync, or maybe Nextcloud, or even a Git repo for this, but I opted for syncthing, connected with my basement file server and syncing to my editing PC. One nice thing about the syncthing approach is that I can sync the Writerdeck's entire vimwiki to a subdirectory inside another vimwiki on my editing rig. That way, my unencrypted Writerdeck can just contain my scripts and blog posts, and I can keep my important secret notes off of it. And yes, I'm planning a future video about syncthing because I'm legally obligated to include some sort of YouTuber engagement farming tease in every video. Next, I'll speed up the launch time a bit by decreasing the grub timeout to 1 second and setting myself to auto login with tmux launching on the main tty. Now, I know I could ditch grub and speed up the boot sequence a bit more, but I don't care. Grub is useful to keep around in case something goes wrong, and what's 1 second anyway? The auto login is something you should skip if you don't want folks to see what you're working on. But for me, this is a place to write stuff that becomes public anyway, so I'm not all that worried about it. And yes, I'm using systemd to set kmscon to auto login, and I don't care if it's evil or genius. And I'm not here to tell you what to think either. Just use what you want. Lastly, I added a line to my bash RC to automatically start tmux into vimwiki if I'm on the main tty. This laptop has one job, to be a writing tool, so I really just want everything to auto-launch. Doing it this way makes it trivial to drop into another tty if I need to do some maintenance or try something outside of tmux. Now, I can already hear the comments. But Veronica, why not just use a regular laptop in Do Not Disturb mode? I have been trying my darndest to have more intentional experiences. Getting away from an all-purpose device is a big part of that. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and you forget why you went in there? I feel like our modern world is inducing that feeling all of the time. A big part of that, for me at least, is the unlimited potential for distractions from our modern, always connected devices. But I remember when that wasn't the case. I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, and I remember the excitement of getting online. To this day, the sound of a modem screeching fills me with joy, like something fun is about to happen. But the thing is, we weren't online all the time. We'd have a few hours here or there, but then we'd go back to the real world. It was a sweet treat, like an ice cream cone on a summer day. Only now, we're always online. Every meal is just ice cream. And I don't know about you, but it's making me sick. So yeah, I set up a terminal-only laptop just to get writing done. This thing can't distract me from my work. It won't tell me what's going on in the world. It has one job. With this laptop, I can sit outside, shut my phone off, plunk down next to my puppy, and handle it. And that's awesome. If you've got any zany ideas for your own Writerdeck, I'd love to hear them. I'm actually imagining I could probably extend this idea to a dedicated writing station using my 486, or even my classy old Wise terminal. Or maybe rig something up with an e-paper display so I can truly sit outside and get work done. In any case, I'm looking forward to spending more time writing videos and blog posts for everyone. One of the things I love about the Linux ecosystem is just how flexible it is. The same kernel running our infrastructure can be used to make really lovely, intentional experiences for all sorts of folks. But that shouldn't surprise anyone because Linux is awesome. And so are you. 1, 2, 3, 4! Rocky Almadora, the grand unified enterprise distro we wish we had.